What is happening, y'all? Cowboy here, and I wanted to bring you a quick guide looking at where to get the 3 other shells in Mortal Shell, as well as the 3 other weapons. Now, obviously, at the start of the game, you'll have access to the Hollowed Sword, and you should have access to Heros. If you somehow missed Heros, God bless your poor soul. He's immediately to the left as soon as you crawl through the giant tunnel. It's almost impossible to miss him, and I don't know how you did. But either way, let's jump in and talk about each of the shells, and then I'll show you where to grab them, and then go into the weapons from there. Now, just as a quick overview, Heros is going to be your balance shell. Stats are balanced down the board. A lot of stuff just towards general progression in terms of his abilities. Stuff like getting additional glimpses, getting some health back from glimpses, reduce the cooldown of hardening. All in all, a solid choice if you're not sure what you want to do. Moving on from him, we have access to Solomon. Solomon is the Resolve shell. He has a ton of resolve, which is great if you're trying to do empowered riposte, or alternatively do your unique weapon specials. Empowered riposte costs 1 bar, unique weapon specials cost 2 bars. Beyond that, a lot of his perks are going to revolve around resolve. Things like getting resolve after talking to NPCs, getting resolve after getting empowered ripostes. Occasionally there's one where it's like you get it fills up all your resolve after killing somebody with a weapon ability. So if you're a fan of weapon abilities, Solomon is the go-to choice. Moving on from there, we have the thick boy, Aerodrum the Venerable. Now, Aerodrum is, in my opinion, easily the best choice if you are new to Souls-likes. He doesn't have a lot of stamina or resolve, but he has a massive durability pool, has perks that are going to increase his stagger potential, increase his defense. He is the beefcake of the game, and a very, very powerful choice to play with, and also a lot of fun on top of that. And then last but not least, we have Teal the Acolyte. If you are a veteran of Souls games, Teal will feel right at home. Doesn't have a lot of health, doesn't have a lot of resolve, but has that thick stamina pool that lets him attack a bunch, roll, attack a bunch, and still roll with stamina left over. Teal has a lot of specials revolving around poison. You can do things like heal when you're poisoned. You can release poison clouds on parry. He has some unique stuff like not costing stamina when you sprint. All in all, a nice shell for the more veteran experienced player. Now, as for getting the other 3 shells, we are going to be starting from the tower right here. The tower is pretty easy to get to at the start for those that somehow didn't make it over here yet. You actually start the game right on over that way. So you literally just run straight. That's like the starting swamp. You run straight through that, and you are at the tower. Now, as for getting our 4 shells from the tower, the first one we're going to guide you to is Teal. Now, to get Teal, you're going to have to beat a kind of a mini-boss. I don't know if I'd really call him a mini-boss, but he's stronger than the regular enemies you'll fight up until now. But some smart use of hardening as well as just using your Hollowed Sword, you can certainly take this guy down. Shouldn't be too much trouble taking him down with a Hollowed Sword, even if it isn't leveled up. So from here, just run towards this tower right here. Just dodge the enemies and drop on down. If we go right, that's going to lead us to one of the temples. If we go left, it'll also lead us to one of the temples, but it'll also lead us to Teal. Just going to run on past these guys. Now, while we're on our way to Teal, I do want to point out that that archway right there, if you go through there, you'll gain access to the first temple, and that temple is where you pick up the Martyr's Blade. Martyr's Blade is like a long ultra greatsword. As for getting the actual weapons in each of the temples, you essentially got to go in, you need to fight the same guy you fought in the tutorial, but he'll be using each of the new weapons. If you beat him, you gain access to the weapon. But go on over here, there'll be some things blocking this, just slash those logs away, kill the little thing that is inside, and after killing that, you will gain access to Teal. Now, as for our other 2, they're actually a little bit easier to get to. We're going to make our way, actually I'll just warp on back, we're going to make our way straight on back to Fulgrim Tower. For those curious, the fast travel thing I'm using, that is purchasable after you've finished leveling up 1 shell in full. So while it is cool to be able to change between shells as you play, I do think it's worth taking 1 shell and getting it to max as soon as possible so you can pick that up. But just going straight out this door, right at the start of the game, this cave is going to have a Grisha inside of it. And what you're going to want to do is avoid all these bear traps. The Grisha will be right there, just kind of clomping around. You can just sprint right past him without any threat. I mean, assuming you're moving fast enough. You're going to go right through this hole, and then you're going to fight an enemy, and you'll be able to pick up Solomon. Now, after you get Solomon, it's actually really easy to get to Aerodrum. Same thing, we're going to run on up here. And go through this little tunnel right here. Now, Aerodrum is at the entrance to the obsidian type area. This is basically a shortcut there. These tunnels are all over the Fulgrim area, and think of them like a giant circle around all of Fulgrim. So you can use these tunnels and they will connect you to pretty much every area. You know, going from where the tree was, the giant tree where we just ran past to get teal, that'll connect over to the area that has the burning effigy. The burning effigy will connect to the area next to that. Everything connects in Fulgrim. But anyway, just keep running this way. And I recommend going this way. You can take the actual path to get over here, but you're going to be running past a lot more and kind of weaving through turns and whatnot. So taking the tunnel approach is a little bit easier to get over here. Once you get over, just drop down a little bit. And once you get right on over here, you will have access to Aerodrum. Now, this, of course, is going to be another temple. Real fast, since we've covered 2 of the temples, I'm going to show you how to get to the 3rd and final temple. And then at the 3rd temple, I'll actually show you the whole book you got to interact with to get access to your weapons. Now, the 3rd temple is going to be pretty easy to get to. As a reminder, that one is going to be basically the 3rd temple. I would suggest saving it for last, definitely the hardest area. And beyond that, the temple that is just past teal, I think, is probably the easiest one. That's the one I would recommend doing first, but obviously, with this being a Souls-like, you go whatever way you want. So right here at this split again, we're going to be going to the right this time, and this is going to take us to a giant burning effigy. Once we get to that effigy, we just got to make a quick turn, and then we are at the final temple that we need to reach. There's our nice big old effigy. If you've reached that, you know you're going the right way. Now there's going to be quite a few enemies you need to kind of sprint and roll past to get up into this temple, so if you're not just trying to snag the weapon, I'd suggest actually just fighting your way through. And once you get up, you are home free. Now do note that when you enter a temple, that is going to become your new respawn point. So if you die, you're going to respawn at the entrance to the temple, not back at Fulgrim Tower, which is something to keep in mind if you're just trying to sprint through and do these quickly. But each temple will have a book along with a statue. And what you need to do is interact with the book, and then you will fight a version of Aerodrum. If you manage to take Aerodrum down, you can then remove the weapon from the statue. You get the Smoldering Mace here. You get the Martyr's Blade at the temple that I pointed out when we grabbed teal. And then you get the Hammer and Chisel at the temple that is just past Aerodrum. Now, as for getting weapon upgrades, the upgrades to use the specials on your weapon are found in the same zones those weapons are found in. So the Hammer and Chisel upgrades are going to be in the Obsidian area. The Martyr's Blade upgrades are going to be down in the area where you found that, etc., etc. And the Hollowed Sword upgrades are going to be right here in Fulgrim. So that same cave that we ran through to get access to Solomon and then cut through to Aerodrum where we saw that big old Grisha, that's actually where you get the very first upgrade. That chest right there, just pop open that chest and you'll have the first upgrade. Even if the Grisha kills you, you'll still get the upgrade from the chest, so it's worth grabbing that as early as possible. Now, as for the second upgrade, that one is going to be slightly trickier, but not all that bad. Using this door as our base, what you want to do is head on over this way. Once you get to the swamp, you know you're going the right way. Make a left at the swamp. You have a camp right here. Run past the camp so that you get down to the water. And you want to follow this waterway. There's going to be lots of poison frogs here, so there's something to keep in mind. You're going to want poison resistance. And if you keep following this, you'll see that you'll end up at a big camp. Now, the upgrade, the Molten Spike, is going to be right here inside of this little fish chest, but it's important to note that you will only be able to access that item during a fog state. Now, you're probably wondering what the hell is a fog state. Basically, after you finish completely beating one of the towers, all of the Fulgrim area will be engulfed in fog. The area will be completely covered in those enemies that you fought to get access to Solomon and Teal. and it's just a lot more dangerous in general. But while that fog state is active, all of those fish chests that you see all over the place that are locked can be opened up for loot, and one of those loots will be the Molten Spike. As for the first upgrade for the hammer and chisel, it's going to be on the right hand side of the obsidian area. You can teleport, and it may be on your left after you teleported, so it'll teleport you to the back. But right here by one of the fire braziers, you essentially need to fight your way past a bunch of different enemies. Alternatively, you could just run on in and snag it to get a hold of it early, but after beating quite a few of them, make your way over and grab it. The second is at the very end of the area when you reach the archives. You make an immediate left into the archives, and then you'll see this teleporter. Taking this teleporter will warp you on out, and then you can grab this, but once again, this is at the very end of the obsidian area. As for the upgrade to the Martyr's Blade, the first is in one of your very first rooms. There's a hole in the wall, you crawl through the hole in the wall, and you pick up the petrified winterglass right there. The second is going to be a little bit harder to get. Eventually you'll come to this room that has a staircase going down and a grate covering half of it. Descend down the staircase, and then you want to go through the doorway that has the gate attached to it. After you go through that, you'll have to fight past a bunch of enemies, including a large shield bearer, and then you'll have access to the radiant winterglass. As for the Smoldering Mace, the first one is in the second room in the temple. As soon as you get into this room, just go on and head straight on down, follow this path along, and eventually you're going to come to a sarcophagus. Pop this on open, and you'll have your first upgrade. Note that it will spawn some enemies that attack, but you can just snag the upgrade and run on out if you're just trying to get it early. The second, as you may have guessed, is quite a bit farther into the zone. Eventually you'll come to another sarcophagus. There'll be 2 basic enemies and a fire knight that's going to spawn. After you fight past them, go ahead and interact with the sarcophagus. It'll summon another enemy, but you will get access to the final upgrade for the Smoldering Mace. Now the last thing I want to touch on isn't an upgrade for the weapon, but actually an upgrade for your seal, and it's the resolve boosting one. Now to get this right at the entrance to the obsidian area, what you're going to want to do is just swing on over to the left, and there is a merchant tucked right on down this path. So just go ahead and run. And then there she is, the corrupted sister. Go ahead and speak with her. It's going to cost 3,000 tar, but then you can get the forbidden offering, and this will drastically increase resolve gain. And when I mean drastically, I mean like whereas 3 hits might typically get you half a bar of resolve, now 3 hits are going to get you a full bar of resolve, which means you're doing all those weapon specials that you just got the upgrades for much, much faster. Either way, y'all, that is going to wrap things up for this one. I know there's a couple other upgrades, mainly stuff that revolves around boosting your heal on parry. For those curious, the Ballista, this thing is pretty awesome, but it's straightforward. You just got to buy the tools from the merchant. Costs 8,000 tar, and then of course you need to use the large bolts that you find. It's not infinite use or anything, but definitely a beefy side weapon to have. So either way, that's going to wrap things up for this video. Hopefully this guide helps a lot of you guys get started. I do have the full walkthrough for the game coming in a couple days, but hopefully this will hold some folks over in the meantime. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time.